G'day Rockhound here! When the closed beta for the finals ended, I was left with two questions. What the heck do I play now that I feel like no FPS I have in my Steam library can match the pace and competitiveness of the finals? And the same question that is on everyone's lips, what's next for the finals? I answered the first question by not even trying to match the longing I had for the speed of the finals by choosing a much slower paced FPS in Hell Let Loose. It seemed like a delicate sorbet between Embark's insanely spicy main courses. The answer to the second question, of what now, however, lies firmly in the court of Embark Studios. So not to needlessly tread over the same ground as my review of the closed beta version of the finals, which you can watch by clicking on the link above, I want to use this video as an opportunity to discuss what we might expect to happen behind Embark's doors between now and the next iteration of the game that we get our ultra sweaty hands on. The actual game aside, as far as closed betas go, I think that this one for the finals should be considered a roaring success, if not a type specimen for betas that other studios should mark their own playtest by going forward. It was a playtest that no doubt produced screeds of valuable data from thousands of rounds, not to mention a wealth of constructive feedback from players pointing out bugs, their optimization and performance concerns, and their frustrations at misbalances between weapons, gadgets, and one of the game's central pillars, the character builds. All that feedback was in addition to what was predominantly a lot of people really enjoying the game, enjoying what is clearly a diamond in the rough. So let's assume for a moment that the more tangible problems like bugs, performance, and optimization issues will get sorted one way or another, and for the purposes of this video, we focus on how the cash-out game mode can become better. The closed beta did see a number of patches from Embark that made it clear that as well as working hard to make immediate bug fixes, they are willing to experiment with key gameplay mechanics like time to kill and respawn times. This is definitely a path I would like to see Embark continuing down between now and the next playtest or early access. Experimentation from them based on feedback from the community to bash the cash-out mode into a stellar experience is, in my view, the key to the game's success. Fortunately, we've already seen that the game makers are willing to experiment along these lines, and patch 0.4 during the closed beta, which came out after my review of the game, saw changes to the TTK and the heavy build's health. I consider that patch the most important and most experimental update made by Embark during the closed beta. The 0.4 patch saw myriad increases to weapon damage, reductions in reload times, increases in environmental damage caused by gadgets like mines, a decrease in the team wipe respawn time, and decreases in both the heavy build's health and the health provided to any player revived by the defibrillator. This combination of changes effectively saw a speeding up of the gameplay loop, you got eliminated faster, and you got back into the fight faster as well. I think that these changes mostly were a good move. The TTK had previously been so slow that in situations where you were dealing with multiple opponents and often multiple teams in the same area, you'd find that when you were trying to take down a heavy build, especially, you would start receiving fire from additional locations before you had the chance to eliminate the heavy you were focused on. This would be fine if the game was slower paced and you could retreat to cover, regain health and continue the engagement, but the finals is not a tactical shooter. The pace of the game essentially demands that you push forward with attacks almost continuously, with the pressing task of defending your team's cash-out station or stealing an opponent's, disallowing adequate time to move back and recover before attacking again. The decrease in TTK meant that you could eliminate an enemy faster, recover, and then move on to taking their teammates out in relatively rapid succession. The one change in the 0.4 patch that I think was detrimental to play was the lowering of the team wipe respawn timer to 20 seconds after it had already been lowered from 30 to 25 seconds. It meant that wipe teams were too quickly back to the same location and engaging the same enemies, which in turn lowered the value of keeping yourself alive and the value of successfully reviving teammates. I'd prefer the timer remained at 25 seconds and that the punishment for a team wipe be lessened in other ways. For instance, an alternative to the straight 50% score reduction teams receive when team wiped could be to have the 50% reduction of the team's score include any cash out they currently have in progress. That way, if they have a substantial cash out counting down, their effective score reduction may be nil, effectively rewarding them for playing the objective, whereas a team that solely focuses on stealing cash outs might risk suffering a full 50% reduction in their current score should they be wiped. As an example, a team that has a current score of 7 7,000 and 18,000 in the cash out would not get any reduction in score if team wiped, as 12,500 is greater than 7,000. So their score would remain at 7,000. But a stealing team that gets team wiped with 25,000 in the bank would drop down to 12,500. As well as rewarding teams that initiate cash outs, this could also make intercepting cash boxes more valuable, fostering more engagements across the maps rather than only around vaults and cash out stations. During my game review, I also suggested that Embark might try removing one team from the rounds and having 3v3v3 instead, as a way to reduce the situations where your team gets completely outnumbered by 3 other teams and then suffers the full team wipe score reduction. Of course, this isn't the only option that might work. In fact, one could fashion an argument that more teams than 4 might be an improvement because more teams would result in firefights scattered across the map, perhaps reducing situations where all the teams end up in one location. The only way to know whether any of these options will improve the cash out mode is for the game devs to try many variations behind closed doors and then come back to us with an updated version of the mode which they feel is a solid improvement. Now, my hunch is that the next version of the finals we will see will play quite differently from the one we just encountered, and that might take a bit of time to see that version. So maybe we should expect 2 things from the question, what now for the finals? Expect changes to the game, some possibly much greater than just bug fixes and optimization, and expect Embark to take their time about getting the next iteration to a level that is very close to a final version of the game. You might be hoping for the next playtest to be a couple of months away, but you might need to be prepared to wait 4 or 5 months or even longer, but the reward will hopefully be worth it. And when we see the game next, Embark's diamond in the rough will be full of flash and fire. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, please consider sharing it with others. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Kia kaha. Stay strong.
Everybody knows the world ain't right. Down on your knees, get up and fight.